Okay, how many have already heard this story of the guy that in 1983 jumped in a motorhome with 4 kids and started selling dust covers to computer stores in the western United States? Raise your hands high, you poor folks. I'll try to stretch the story and embellish it and make some fibs out of it. Not really. Matter of fact, I'm going to treat you guys to something that I've already heard the story with something I haven't done before in any of the lectures. As Shauna said, my name's Don Watkins. When I was probably about your age, I was having a little trouble getting focused at Brigham Young University in my schoolwork, and I decided that I wanted to become a hospital administrator, and I decided I'd do some strategies to be a hospital administrator. And I went down, well, before I go there, let me tell you a little something though that Sean and I talked about. Because I want to help you in business, but I want to also help you survive in life. Do you know, about 2 months ago, we have 7 children. And a really hard thing happened about a couple years ago. I had one child, my youngest child, suffered from mental health issues. She suffered from social anxiety, for example. All of us as a family just loved this last little daughter to death. And she loved us all individually. But you know, when we got to dinner, got to Sunday dinner or something, she was nowhere to be found. She suffered from, one of her sufferings was suffered from social anxiety. And that's just being around too many people. But long story short, she ended up passing on about 2 months ago. And that was quite devastating. A week and a half ago, I was sending my number 6 daughter back to Utah State on Sunday afternoon. Obviously, there was a bit of a snowstorm, and I was really nervous and going, I got to send this little girl back to school. And I checked the weather, and it said, and she has a boyfriend here, so she really didn't want to go back to school. And her mom and I are both a little anxious, going, oh, you know, we're a little nervous with kids driving. And so anyway, I checked the weather, and it said dry roads, maybe a little bit wet. So I said, you got to get out of here. She goes, yeah, I'm going to get out of here, and I'll probably get in a wreck in Sardine Canyon, and you'll never see me again either. That's horrible. You kids can be really mean. And so anyway, I'm going to share with you a little more than I usually share, is that that was Sunday afternoon, and Sunday afternoon, going through a hard thing, losing a child, is a very difficult thing, as you could guess and imagine. And so Sunday afternoons, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take my little iPod, and I'm not very techie, but I like to put on Pandora, and I'm LDS, and so I'll hit the little gospel music or the Mormon station or something, and I hear really beautiful music. Really gives me a peace of mind. I love nature, I love hiking, and I can get a peace there. And this little girl that passed away, she was an incredible flutist. And the favorite song she'd play often, and she played it 3 months before she passed away at my father's funeral. And it was Peace Be Still, Peace Be Still My Soul. And it was incredible how she could play that, and it was just magic. Well, when I went on my walk, and I watched for little tender mercies from God, and when I came back and walking down my driveway, that song came on, and it was just a flute, and it was my little way of, I felt God's way of saying, I'm here, everything's okay. What was really strange at that moment, now my younger daughter had left about 2 hours earlier, hour and a half earlier for Utah State, is as I went into my garage, all of a sudden, and this has never happened to me on Pandora, how many of you have listened to Pandora and had basically the same song with a different artist play the same song again? Would you raise your hand? Okay, not too many. I had never had that happen. And I listen to Pandora all the time. And so when I went into the garage, all of a sudden now someone's singing that song. I go, whoa, that's really special. And I go, God, that means a ton to me. So I remember walking right back out of the driveway, and it was kind of cold and blistery that day. And I just remember feeling the peace and a comfort. I went into the house, and about 15 minutes later, the phone rings. And my wife, who's an amazing woman, and people say, how is she doing? When a mother loses a daughter, and she had spent so much time with this daughter because of her mental illness. I say she's doing pretty good. If a mother takes a year or two to heal from something like that, she's a little ahead of schedule. So anyway, she's there, the phone rings, she goes over and answers the phone, and her face goes white, and she goes, oh no. It couldn't be. And I look at her, and immediately I know what's going on. I know she's talking to a emergency medical person, and my daughter's been in a very serious accident in Sardine Canyon. So we jump in the car, we race up to Sardine Canyon. The great story is, because I need to talk about business, but I do want to stretch something. If something I say today will help you drive a little more carefully. Jasmine, when we got to the hospital, she was in a neck brace, and she has her car, what had happened was she had gone up Sardine Canyon. How many live in Logan? Well, Sardine Canyon has lost a lot of people to death. And they've put a divider up most of the way, but at the very top where the lake bed was, there's not a divider. And she had started to snow, and she's a very good driver. I had decided, since I don't like spoiling my kids. I don't think that's an advantage. I like them to work hard. I think that's an advantage in their lives. But I decided a few months earlier that this little 96 Subaru that I'd bought the little girls, they call him Ricky, I was going to buy a Hyundai Elantra that had airbags the entire way for safety. I could afford it. I decided not to worry about spoiling this Jasmine. And thank the good Lord I had the money to do that. So coming down, the snow started to go. She said, I got in the slow lane, Dad, and I started going 35 miles an hour. People are passing me about 45. A fellow going that was 40 years of age, an older person, was coming the other way in a Suburban, was going 70 miles an hour in the snowstorm, lost control, spun around and hit my daughter with a Suburban in the Hyundai head-on. The car is totaled. Hearing her roommate, she said, I woke up, I looked over at my roommate that was all bloody, and I just said, Chandler, are we dead? And Chandler said, no, I don't think so. And then she said the pain in my neck just started, and they had to extricate him and get him up to the hospital. Bottom line was, a week ago Sunday, my daughter has a small fracture in her neck. They don't anticipate any long-term problems. The other girl has a concussion. She's still having headaches, but both have no broken bones. The wrecker place said, we've never seen anyone survive like this. And so my point is, please drive carefully. When you can afford it, get airbags all the way around. They all blew. And the new cars, the engineers that are working on these little cars, even though they're little, they're doing quite a bit to make these kind of... But at the end of the day, hope you're God-fearing and respectful of Him, and miracles can happen. Some miracles don't happen the way we want. My first little girl, the miracle didn't happen on the mental illness cure. She's okay now, and she's at peace, and I'm okay. But the other one was just a flat-out miracle. But we all don't get the miracles. Sometimes we don't get them. Anyway, sorry for the interlude, but I hope if that makes you all drive a little more carefully, or be wise on your car decision, or whatever. And again, the poor guy that hit her, he feels unbelievably blessed that he didn't kill two little girls. He has two girls of his own. He feels really bad about the way he was driving. I have to say, I remember many trips to Lake Powell in my 20s and 30s, and hopefully maybe ended by 40s. I went around a lot of cars that I shouldn't have. Getting Lake Powell between Price and Green River, you know. So anyway, little spurt on. Please be careful. Please be careful out there. Well, listen, in 1980, BYU, I'm going to speed this up with all that story and get you some business story, is I'm entrepreneurs, they're all sorts of types. There's guys that are really bright and really go-get 'em. There's guys that are really go-get 'em and not overly bright. I'm one of those guys that's not overly bright, but I'm ADD. I'm after it. I'm a problem solver. I like to solve problems. I like to come up with solutions. And as a matter of fact, I was in I just got off my LDS mission. Sorry for you that aren't LDS or whatever, but hopefully you're God-fearing anyway, whatever you are, and you still appreciate where I'm coming from. I had gotten off a 2-year service mission to Alaska, and I'd come back into church at BYU my first week. I had a buddy of mine, a cousin. He was my best friend growing up, Norman Watkins, and he was 2 years younger than me. He was just getting ready to go on a mission. He looked a little different than me. He was 6'4". He had a full head of hair. I was thin even then of hair. I always thought it was kind of weird. My dads were full brothers, we were told. And his dad was tall, dark, and handsome. My dad was, well, he looked like me. But he's a good man. And he's a great guy. Well, anyway, so Norm, he's coming up he played baseball at BYU his freshman year and stuff, and he was getting ready to go on his mission. He wanted to come and stay a week with me at BYU at my first semester before I say goodbye to him, because basically we wouldn't see each other for 4 years. We came into church. There was kind of like this up at BYU, and there was an aisle here and an aisle here. And being into my mission, I sat in the front row here. And I decided before the meeting start that I would come up with a strategy being interested in my most important mission, which would be what, guys? Just off a mission, and my girlfriend didn't wait for me, by the way. What would it be? Yeah, finding a beautiful gal. So what I did before the meeting started, I took a look over the crowd, and I saw a beautiful blonde. I go, holy smokes, that's her. That's her. So anyway, I paid attention, obedient. I'm talking to you guys about being obedient, faithful, keeping commandments of God, regardless of what religion you are. And so I paid attention, the meeting's over. This blonde gets up, she walks down the stairs, and this is something to do with entrepreneurship and strategy and energy and passion and not being overly bright. She comes down, and immediately I sit back down. Because I'm really quick at analyzing problems and solving them. What was the problem? Who said that? You already know the story.
Yeah, but I'm short too, so I can relate.
Okay, you can relate. Yeah, he can relate. How's he doing, by the way? Is he making any headway, or are you happily married?
I'm happily married.
Okay. Caleb? Watch out for Caleb. Anyway, good man. So anyway, she's taller than me. I don't want her to make the mistake of her lifetime by making a false judgment about the short little bald guy. So I'm sitting down. She just, flows on by. She floats on by. I go, man, this is going to be great. I got a little problem, though. I'm going to have to grow 5 inches or something. So it flows on by. I go to my apartment. Wouldn't you know it, Jim Downs, my roommate, goes, I go, do you know that girl? He goes, yeah, that's Peggy Tuttle. I go, Peggy Tuttle. I go, okay, that sounds like a church name. That sounds good. She must be a good girl, too. And I go, okay, terrific. He goes, I'm going over there to lunch. Marilyn Metcalf's my roommate. Is my girlfriend, and that's Peggy's roommate. I go, perfect. He goes over there for lunch, comes back 2 hours later, and I say, Jim, how'd it go? And he goes, great, it was good. The food was great. I go, hey, did she say anything about me? He goes, no, but man. And by the way, Norm, he didn't sit down when I sat down. He goes, man, did she have a lot of questions about your cousin Norm? Isn't that sad? No question. Well, I wasn't worried about Norm because he's going. He's out of here. So that's not a problem. So anyway, long story short, I closed the deal. And we've been happily married ever since. Next problem was I didn't have a very good job. I was a garbage man at BYU, and I worked there, and Peggy was a dental assistant. Matter of fact, on our second date, I said to Peggy, I go, first date went really bad. I had a hole to dig like you can't believe. Not only was I about her height, with her heels on, then she was taller, not only did I have all these problems, but in addition, the first date went horrible. And so the second date, I don't know how we had it, but on the second date, I knew she was a dental assistant, and I said, Peggy, I know we will never marry. I know that. I didn't really know that, but I wanted her to kind of get her defenses down, because I don't think she liked me much. And I said, I know we'd never marry, but I know you have a job, right? And she goes, yeah. I go, how much do you make a month? She goes, as a dental assistant, I make $640 a month. I said, do you mind if we just take a minute and see if we could live off your income if we got married? What would you do if someone did that to you on your second date? You would leave? Yeah, she about left right then, went back to her roommate and said, guess what he did now? And they go, oh, you'll probably marry him. You know what? We got married. Life was great. Matter of fact, I was a garbage man at BYU, and then I wanted to go into hospital administration. So I went down. As a matter of fact, if I want to get a better job than a garbage man, and I want to work, and I just ran into this guy for the first time in 30 years on Saturday at Walmart. I went down to the hospital to network with the administrator, Mark Howard. Mark Howard. Anybody know Mark Howard, former administrator at the hospital? Okay, I just saw him. He just got off a mission from the Philippines. And anyway, he went down to Mark to network. Why was I networking with Mark? What did I want to be when I grow up? Hospital administrator. I also wanted to get a better job, so I wanted to network with him so that he would see what kind of positive, crazy, enthusiastic young person I was. And so after we were done, I said, how can I get a job here? He goes, go down to HR. I went down to HR. The lady came out, and I said, I want to get a job here. I'm sure that Mark Howard, do I have a false sense of self-worth? I mean, here I thought I could get this beautiful blonde to marry me, and I did. Here I'm down at the hospital, and I'm thinking I'm going to get a job, and I go into HR, and I'm thinking Mark Howard is called down to say, hey, hire this guy, don't you think? Yes, yes. Well, he didn't. And she goes, you want a job here? What can you do? I go, I don't know. I just want a job here. I want to get familiar with the hospital and be a hospital administrator. I love medicine, but I'm not good in science and stuff, so I probably wouldn't be good as a doctor. But I want to stay in that field. And she said, well, only thing you're qualified for is an orderly. There are 8 orderlies at this hospital. All of them are pretty much positions filled by pre-med students at Brigham Young University. And as a matter of fact, there's probably 100 waiting on a list to be orderlies. Why do they want to be orderlies at the hospital, pre-med students?
Get their foot in the door.
What?
Get their foot in the door.
Getting their foot in the door. It looks good on their resume. Same reason I wanted to. And so anyway, she goes 100. So anyway, many of the students, many of you, what would you do at the end of that meeting? She goes, there's 8 positions, they're all filled, and there's a list of 100 that want those 8 jobs. What would you do? What? What? What would you do?
Where's the application?
Where's the application? Why would you fill out an application? There's 100 pre-med students ahead of you. And the changeover is maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
You got to be better than them.
Be better than you. Okay, fill out your head. You think I'm better than them? I can't even, it took me 10 years to get through college. And that was university studies. It wasn't science. I could fill out an application and I could go in number 101 and that wouldn't look too good. What else could I do? I could do what most of you would do. I love ticking you guys off if I can. You'd go, poor me, doesn't work. Jobs never work out for me. That's what you'd do. I hope you wouldn't, but I'm going to try to tick you off and say you would. I go home with my personality. All of you that have been bored with the story, don't answer the story. What would I do? What did I do for 3 nights? Not sleep because I'm what? What's my personality disorder? ADD. So what am I doing at night?
Making a plan.
Making a plan. Okay, Cindy, you've heard the story.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't heard the story. Cindy's just been around the block. Okay, I'm making a plan. I'm obsessing. I run into the hospital. So fun. Mark Howard on Saturday, reminding him of the story. He remembers. He remembers the weird kid. So anyway, I go into the hospital. I go up to the pink ladies and I say, ladies, I would like a job here. And they go, what would you do? And I go, what can I do? They go, you can volunteer. You can be a pink lady. You can deliver flowers to Mrs. Butler. You can deliver flowers to patients. So on the 3rd day of delivering flowers to Mrs. Butler in the operating room, she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm a passionate, hardworking young man, and I want to be a hospital administrator, and there's a waiting list of 100 people to get a job here, and I'm just trying to prove on the inside that I'm a great guy and someone ought to hire me. She said, you're hired. And I worked there for 1.5 years. So entrepreneurs, at least me, my IQ, not that high. My memory, not that high. I am a problem solver. I am obsessive. I do focus and do go after things. I started a real estate company, and at that time in the summers while working at the hospital, then in the summertime I went up and started selling real estate in Quail Valley, Provo Hills, and all of a sudden I made a lot of money. Pretty soon I had my own real estate and construction company. By the time I was almost 30, I had built a big home up in Alpine over by Wesley. And our parents, good friends of mine, built a nice home over there, had 3 mortgages on that home because had a nice boat and different things. And I would keep all mortgages as much as I could so I could put my money in real estate because I was multiplying it fast. I thought I was worth maybe, when I was 28, 29, 750, 800,000. Took every dime I had and put it up in Bountiful. Anybody from Bountiful? Are you familiar with the Bountiful Golf Course? At the top, at the south end of the Bountiful Golf Course, there's a subdivision called Sunset Hollow. If you go into it, big cement walls. I put that development in, and in about, I don't know when it was, like 1980, 80, right in there. Put in this beautiful development. I knew that if once in 2 more years, when that development would be out, I'd have $1.5 million. I'd take and pay off my mortgages on my home. I'd pay off my boat. I'd pay off everything. I'd put then about $500,000 into working capital and keep going. Only problem was interest rates back then. All of a sudden, real estate market bombed. Real estate interest rates went to 22%. I all but went bankrupt a year and a half later. We sold everything. This sweet wife that had gambled on this little short guy finally was going, whoa, maybe I did make a mistake. No, she was incredible. I said, you know what, looks like you married a loser. I luckily married the most perfect person for an entrepreneur. She just said, this wasn't your fault. This could have happened to anybody. Truth of the matter was, half of it was my fault. Too much debt. Too much debt. And a lot of it wasn't my fault with the economy. Real estate is up and down. How on earth could we have 3 or 4% interest rate, the lowest interest rates ever since I was born, and we still have a crash? Well, real estate is up and down. I love real estate. I buy a lot of real estate, but I pay cash for real estate. Bottom line was, all but went bankrupt, and then I later going with my wife and saying, hey, how about if we start a new business? 1983, how about if we hop in we were living in a little rental now. We'd lost our home, luckily paid it off and paid off the mortgages. But I said, what do you say we just hop in this motor home? We tested out a concept of dust covers for computers. And 4 of the 7 children I had, we went in there. That's the first night down in Panguitch in a snowstorm on our way to Arizona. My wife was thrilled. She goes, this will be thrilling. This will be great. I'll teach the kids out of the motorhome. You take the little Subaru. We used to have a nice Mercedes. It was a diesel Mercedes. But we have this now little Subaru. And I'll just set that up behind a church. And you can teach the kids, and they can get their 4-wheelers out and have the whole parking lot. And I'll go door to door to computer land and business land type stores selling my dust covers door to door to computer stores. By the time we got up to the Bay Area, which is where I'm from when I grew up, Los Altos, Palo Alto, California, we got to the Bay Area. My partner called, and he was measuring, doing patterns up in Salt Lake at Apple stores, and he goes, have you seen, Don, that little mat that goes on top of this little mouse? This is about 1984 or so. I said, yeah, and he says, why can't we make that? And so we all of a sudden started making mouse mats in addition to dust covers. The first company ever to make mouse mats is a company out of San Francisco called Mouse Tracks. They should have patented it, but they didn't as a utility patent. And so we were able to come in, and we became and are today, I had no idea mouse mats would still be being sold by us today. But we've sold probably 70 million mouse mats of every type you can ever imagine. And if you go into most stores today, Best Buy or Walmart or something, you'll see a little red insignia, and that's handstands. And that's our products. We became very big in making computer accessories, all sorts of accessories, even odd duck, things like this. You know what her name is? Her name is Millie. I didn't bring her little husband. His name is Max. This is nothing more than in about 1987, a really stupid idea that made me a couple $1,000,000. Anyway, Max and Millie, just all, you know what, what's Max and Millie? Do you have any idea? As a matter of fact, at a trade show, I'm very professional and very bright that I am. I could, oh, I can't do it anymore, but see, I mean, you can make it so it jump. Anyway, we had at Comdex, the big computer show in Las Vegas every year, showing our computer accessories, and along with IBM and AT&T and all the other hardware, we would show dust covers, mouse mats, and then we would show Max and Millie. Half the people that would come by the show would go like this, "That's ridiculous." The other half, like Radio Shack, would go, "I cannot believe how many millions of these we're selling. This is just Max and Millie, a fun little novelty that goes over a mouse." We sold them for 4 or 5 years, Radio Shack being #1. I just love it sometimes when people say you're an idiot. You know? No, they would. They were really offended as they were in their little JCPenney 3-piece suits. Okay. So anyway, we started out with mouse mats, and we did computer accessories for many years. And now I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, and I want to tell you about another little business that's, and then I might bounce back and forth because I'm what? ADD. Yeah. Oh, by the way, let me make a really big point here. In business, I look at it this way: a 3-legged stool. Let's picture me standing on a 3-legged stool. Okay, each leg would be critical for me, and I say to be above the crowd in business, you got to stand on this stool, especially me, and each one of those stool legs are so critical. If one of them's gone, I'm gone, right? And I compare that to, in a business, one of the legs being a product. The product's got to be a wow. It's got to be a 9 or a 10. It's got to be so good at solving pain or creating pleasure that people just go, wow. So if you're thinking of starting a new business, one component of that has to be a product or service that is a wow. Okay? The next component of that has to be your business team. The business team comprises of unbelievable sales and marketing, the best there is. It has to be incredible operations, block and tackling, making sure the product's done properly, shipped properly, or their service is excellent. You've got to really understand basics of finance. And some businesses are great, but if they don't have enough cash flow, they still go out of business. And the fourth is ongoing product development. Okay, so why isn't that enough? Why isn't it enough to have an incredible product and a credible team? Well, you know what the third is? It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of, you can reduce the luck with timing and strategy by a good business team analyzing. But a lot of us that have been successful, we've also been extremely fortunate. Not all of us, please forgive the bad analogy, but not all of us are going to make it through life without a tragedy, without a health occurrence, or without a problem. Most people in business are not going to make it through without possibly failures along the way. I had a big failure. One of my best mentors, and remind me to talk about mentors for a minute. One of my best mentors is a fellow by the name of Rick Farr. Rick Farr taught me that success is extremely overrated. He didn't say extremely. I'll say what he said. Rick Farr said, success is overrated, and so is failure. Success is overrated, and so is failure. The point being that, was I just a loser when the real estate market and the interest rates went to 22% and I lost everything? You know, to some people that are looking from a worldly way would say yes. But no, I wasn't. I learned a ton from that. I wouldn't trade that, especially now things are going good and I'm in a different business. I'm glad I'm not 60 and learning the real estate rules of today like some of my buddies that are 60 are learning it. I was lucky I learned it when I was 30, that real estate's great, but not at leverage. And so success. So now my business, yeah, it's going, it's booming. We are number one in air fresheners under the brands of, well, I haven't even told you about air fresheners. About 8 years ago, one of the things I do is I mentor. And that means that I at BYU and at UVU for 15 years, I come and lecture and tell this story. Or I love to come here and I'll set up in my office. And if you've got a new business idea, I don't even care if you're not an entrepreneur and you have a professional idea. I've hired a lot of employees over the years. You can come in, make an appointment with me. And I love that. I love as much, I have sufficient income. And now what I get a real high on is coming and sharing my experiences. And really entertaining is fun, but what's really rewarding is to have you come up, and I've had a lot of students come up and say, Don, back 4 years ago, you told me about this and this and this, and you made a huge difference. And back to team member, my success, I was very lucky. Remember I talked about the four keys of a business from a team standpoint? My partner, I'm ADD. My partner is actually a little ADD, but not a lot. He is unbelievably organized. See, look at this. I got a $60 million business, and look how organized I am. It's just stuff's everywhere. That isn't me. I lucked out. Thank you, God. I don't get arrogant. Because my partner, Gary Deaton, can you look at that? Yeah, it was bald then. Look at him. He is 59 years of age, and he has perfect hair, and it's perfectly brown, and his dad's 90, and it's perfectly brown, undyed, and every hair is in place. And he is unbelievably meticulous, unbelievably organized. As a matter of fact, we just talked about this. He left the company. He's still in the company, but I bought some of his shares out. He wanted to do some other things about 8 or 9 years ago. I can't leave my business. I'm just totally in love with my business and love what I do. And I have great people that pretty much run it. But Gary was a micromanager. And that's exactly what we needed early on. He did every little thing. He'd answer the phone call. He'd go out, and he's a top AT&T type salesman before he left and partnered with me. But man, he'd go out and measure, get the patterns made. He'd get the packaging so that it was just perfect. And he ended up, not by design, but by luck or blessings or gift from God, being my partner. But what do we come here and teach? I try to teach, hey, if you don't have this complement in your business plan, then we've got to find out a strategy or partner to get it. So I've made a lot of mistakes, barely made it in business on a number of times, and now it's thrilling to be able to come back and hopefully make a difference. One of the things I do is, there was a young man by the name of Chris Anderson. And Chris Anderson is about 35 years of age, 36 years of age. And Chris was a fellow, I have one of the things to help with my ADD, because I really don't like never being able to sleep at night with my disorder. And so basically about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoons through much of my business career, I'd go home to my ranch in Alpine, I call it, and I have horses, and I have buggies, and I have tractors. And he sold me 2, not 1, he's good. He sold me 2 Cabato tractors. I only needed 1, but I've got 2. But this young guy put himself through Westminster College. He's an entrepreneur. I call him an intrapreneur because he works for me, but because he's so entrepreneurial, he works for me, and I've given him ownership of the company. But anyway, when he was 19, I'd go in, and for about 10 years, I'd go in and out of that store, and he ended up having some ownership of the store. And every time I'd go in there, he would meet my needs or exceed my needs. 2 tractors. Well, every time we finished, he'd go, Don, I really like your business sense and your enthusiasm and your experience. Could we go out back in the yard and spend 15, 20 minutes talking about my future and about what I'm thinking about doing? And so what you do as a mentor, as mentors, they love to be able to share their story. It gives them a little ego boost. Don't you think I feel good? When you guys laugh or think it was enjoyable or whatever, that gives me a little, that's fun. And so, but it's really fun, again, when you come back and say, that really did make a difference. Well, with Chris, finally, after a number of years, he goes, Don, he was about probably 28, and he says, would you go into business with me? And I go, you know what? You're one of a kind. His IQ is like 180. He has a photographic memory. He was the only person we know of, put himself through Westminster College with a perfect 4.0 in economics. But not only is he bright, he's really good at sales. I was good at sales, but not overly bright. Well, Chris finally said, would you go in business with me? I go, you bet I would. So we wanted to buy the tractor store. He already owned 15% of it. We wanted to buy the tractor store. We couldn't come up with a deal. We were too far apart. He said, Don, I want to come to work in your company. I go, no, I really don't have a place for you in the company. He goes, yes, you do. He goes, you've invented, one of your many products that your company invented is a product called a sticky pad. No adhesive, no magnet, but it sticks on your dash. How many are familiar with a sticky pad? Okay, many of you. Okay, he says, Don, that's sold at your current distribution. My current distribution was computer accessories. He goes, this should be sold in automotive stores. I said, I know, but we're just one product going into an automotive store that sells 4,000 products from $300 or 400 vendors doesn't want to buy just one product. He goes, give me a good salary for 1 year, then I'll go pretty much straight commission. I go, okay. So he came in. He's unbelievable, a lot better than I am. He got this in all the automotive stores. At the end, by the way, when we had one of our many meetings that we had, I said, Chris, I've been in construction, and when I build a nice home, I make $50,000. It was awesome. And if I sold 10 homes that year, I'd make $500,000. I never sold 10 in 1 year. If I sold 5, that might be $250,000. I go, I really like my current business, Chris, as you think about starting your own business, because now I have distribution, and when I'm at Lake Powell having a good time skiing, I got people all over the country that are still selling my mouse pads, making me money. And I like that. And he says, Don, I've gotten your sticky pads everywhere. And he had faith in himself. He didn't ask for any ownership or anything. And I said, no, me and my partners, I have 100 employees and nobody has ownership. He says, well, I won't worry about that. He knew deep down he was good, and he'd figure that out later. Well, he got this in everywhere, and he came to me and he says, at a trade show at Apex, he said, Don, I think now, would you support me? I want to set up a division that builds air fresheners for cars. I said, Chris, we don't have a WOW product. We have a WOW team, and I don't think the timing is right to be lucky in air fresheners because it's an old industry. He says, yeah, I think we've got some technology. We'll create this new product called the Bug. I had brilliant people in my company create products. He said, we'll take that sticky pad technology that's on the base of the sticky pad, and we'll put it with gel wrist rests of mouse mats. We'll put in fragrance, and it'll stick on the dash, and it'll be a WOW product. And so remember the three-legged stool? All of a sudden we created this after a year, and all of a sudden I'm going, wow, that is cool. We take it into the Walmart buyer. The Walmart buyer over air fresheners has 6 or 7 companies he deals with, buying about 10 SKUs from each one. So there's almost 100 SKUs if you go into Walmart Automotive for air fresheners. We went in, took it to him, and the buyer said, what, when he saw it? Wow. Wow. It's the key word. It's that technical. It's that scientific. It's wow. If the key customer says wow, customer is king. The buyer said, wow, I'm going to break my rules, and I'm going to bring in 2 of these. When he brought in the 2, by the way, most businesses are led by customer as king. Customer's king. So long story short, we get this in. About the time that this is getting shipped to him, he says to the buyer, because the buyer is what? King, customer's king. He says to the buyers, about these times to come in the store, the buyer's excited, we're excited. We didn't test these out anywhere. We just went for it at Walmart. And they brought him in. And while he was there talking to the buyer, and the buyer goes, hope it goes real well, he goes to the buyer this word. And this has built a $50 million business for me in the last 8 years, which is an extremely profitable business. He says to the buyer, is there anything you're unsatisfied with your current lineup of vendors and air fresheners? And the buyer goes, thanks for asking. I've been telling car freshener, the trees. I've been telling Meadow, who has all the vent sticks and all the other, not vehicles, but all the other platforms. I've been telling them that, hey, air fresheners come from what industry? Over the last 60 years, where are the stores that usually you got air fresheners from? Automotive stores, okay? Napa, O'Reilly, or AutoZone, or that's where they came from. What's the market there? What's the demographic? Males, 15 to 25. The buyer goes, I've been telling the major manufacturers, Shell Oil Company owned the second largest air freshener company, I've been telling them that my demographic is 70% female. And why don't you make air fresheners for females? Chris said, see ya. Ran home, told me, we go, okay. Is the timing right? Was it luck? I don't know what it was, but it was a gift from heaven. Do we have the right team? Yeah. Do we have great products? Yeah. We raced back. He created pictures and took vent sticks and put design and color on them and female fragrance on it, and then made it more look female friendly. The hardcore 15 to 25-year didn't like that look, but the women did. And now at Walmart, of 100 SKUs, we have 50. It's over a $20 million business. We have many platforms in refresher because we listened to that buyer 8 years ago. By the way, when he went back 4 months later, he walked in the door, and then they had information, by the way, on the bug. Guess that's how it was selling. How many of you had seen the bug before? One person. Two. Guess what? The buyer said, this isn't selling very well. It was too new, too innovative. I think it's the best air freshener we've ever made, and it's not selling today in anywhere. But Chris said, I know. I saw the statistics. It's not selling well. But he showed him pictures of this. And the buyer said, now you've nailed it. And the buyer was right. We brought these in, and then we nailed it with Refresh. So if you go into Walmart, you'll see Refresh. Now we've nailed it. Not only, we've taken platforms that were already there. Most entrepreneurs are not inventors. They come up with angles and make whatever is out there much better. And now this necklace looks like a real necklace. I mean, you won't want to, the scent only lasts 30 days. I wish it would last 90 days. But it only lasts 30 days. But you won't want to take it out of your car because it looks so good. But that's the Bahama. Then after just last year, we didn't want to go head on against black ice. And so just last year, we wanted to skirt the big competitors. So last year, though, now we're ready to go after black ice. And so we decided to come out with a product called Driven. These are vent sticks, and those are tire tracks. Pretty cool. And they're going really well in AutoZone and those kind of stores. Interesting enough, the Refresh Your Car female is going really good in the automotive market as well. Okay. Now, got to tell you this story really fast. Okay, would you, who's my guy right here? I had a scientist from up to Brigham Young University contact me 3 years ago and say, Don, you're really good at business. I've got an incredible product. He's a scientist that suffers from hyperhidrosis. Hyperhidrosis, go ahead. And as soon as that's playing, I'll stop and go from there. I don't know if we can, yeah, turn on.
I find it a very illuminating email that we were doing today. We just saw 3 firefighters who say going into a fire in their gear is like wearing a snowsuit into a pizza oven. And they all have the sweat stains to prove it. So we had them check out products that promise to put a stop to the sweat.
Notice, no sweat stains. I think. Oh man, I wish I started this 5 minutes earlier.
We gave John the Sweat Block liquid formula that is designed to eliminate the wetness for a period of 7 days.
I was very skeptical when I got into testing this product, but after trying it for the first couple times and using it day to day, it really is a good product. You apply the pad once a week, just did it every Sunday night.
Don't look, don't look!
Day-to-day life, and you don't even notice that the product's on you at all. I have actually noticed a large decrease in the areas that I applied it to. I applied it to my underarm.
Okay, that's good.
And where my shirt will be completely soaked
Okay, Dr. Stephenson at BYU suffers from excessive sweating. It's 6 million people in America do. So he created a product for himself that he can apply one night a week right before he goes to bed and showers, and then applies it, and he doesn't sweat for a week. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? And he used it in family and friends for 5 years. Then his wife goes, if so many of our neighbors want this, why don't we market it? So she started marketing it online. She got up to about 100,000 sales a year, and for over 5 years. And then all of a sudden it showed, Rachel Ray picked it up and her sales jumped to, she was doing about 10,000 a month, 100,000, 120,000 a year. Rachel Ray picked it up. She didn't know why. Sales jumped by 4, went up to 40,000 a month for a few months, dropped back down. They showed the show again, jumped back out, came back down, and it lowered back down again. She goes, I don't know why we can't get this. Everybody ought to have it out there. Entrepreneurs are inventors? No. They usually find great products. Was this a great product? Yeah, incredible. I put together a team of internet people. I found that she was of internet marketing strategy. She was doing 2 of 10 strategies. The website being 1 of 10. Now it's a killer website. But that's only 1 of our 10 strategies. In 1.5 years, we're up to, from 120,000 in sales, we're up to 1.2 million in sales. And now it just got introduced at Walmart. Yeah, you'll find it at Walmart. And it looks like it's going to be terrific there. Business is a blast. I got a lot more failures I could also share with you. But business is a blast. And I'm here because I get a high, mainly my guys at work say, we really don't need you anymore, Don. You're old time, but maybe you guys being younger won't mind some of my advice.